Hi everyone, welcome back to Ibrox, the Rangers Reviews post-match debrief. We've started recording this a couple of times, Chris, so we'll hope we're not interrupted this time. Rangers 1, Dundee 0. Rangers get a win before Christmas. Rangers go back to second. I thought it was a weird game, Chris, in that if you look, there was parts of that performance and the vibe of the day, the vibe of the stadium that felt quite similar to the 1-0 win over Hearts and the form Rangers were in before their recent upturn, which has been performances and generally performances and results, whereby the margin of victory was narrow. I didn't feel like they really controlled the game. And you're one moment away from, one corner or kind of long ball forward from potentially conceding a dangerous opportunity. On the other hand, if you were to look at the stats, which we will, then I think they'd be kinder to Rangers than those games like the Hearts game. They hit the bar or the post 3 or 4 times. Hamza Gaman misses a huge opportunity. There was like 3 moments in injury time alone to finish that off. So, I don't know, explain it for me then. What did you think? Somewhere in between that, a game like Hearts, and it wasn't, a performance of that level, neither was it anywhere close to like a Kilmarnock game, but Rangers probably deserved to win by a bigger margin on the day. Is that fair?
I think this video is quite like the Rangers attack, a bit stop-start in phases. I think if they had taken all their chances, they win 3-4-0 and it looks very comfortable and people go away quite happy about it. As you say, I don't think it was as comprehensive as a Kelly game, both in terms of obviously goals scored, obviously, but chances created in general, control, as you touched on there. So for large spells, Rangers were comfortable without really being that dominant. Now, of course, if they do take their chances, if a man scores, if they can score one of the ones on the breakaway and you win 3-0, I think Clement sits in this press conference room and he's quite happy. I think he cut a bit of a frustrated figure at the time, almost, not because the team played really badly, just I think he felt they should have won by more. He used the word entertain the fans more. It wasn't overly boring, and compared to some of the games that we've sat here and watched previously, it certainly wasn't top of that list. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible, it was fairly middle of the road. I think by the time we come to do our Rangers review, end of year review, it won't feature that highly. But
we've said that quite a lot this season.
I've said that quite a lot. There's not been any games on this particular review, but I think overall it was fine. I mean, you look at the build up to it and so much focus after last week. It's just nice to get back playing football. Nice to be back talking about goals and chances and that type of thing, rather than everything else that's been going on over the last few days. So I think they can be pleased with 3 points. I don't think they've read too much into it. And as the manager touched on, you then bounce into St Mirren, you've got Motherwell, and then obviously Celtic. So the games just keep on coming, and Rangers just need to find ways of keeping on winning them at present.
Yeah, and I guess it's not a young team in terms of like, the average age of that team has maybe come down a bit from the start of the season, but it still feels like, especially with decision making, it can be quite an immature team at points, and I think you saw that in particular in the second half. If we look at the game chronologically, Rangers had a lot of the ball in the first half, and there was a few nice moments of interplay between Danilo and Eggman and Cherney. A couple of moments on the right hand side had you hit the bar, but it was from range. It wasn't really a clear opportunity. Everything was kind of in front of Dundee, who didn't. I think they attempted one shot, which was from a set piece or a free kick in the first half, was a header. Very content with sitting back. Strangely, right after the break, Dundee kind of went for it a little bit, which gave Rangers space to play into. And we know, I think they're a more comfortable team. Clement style is more comfortable when you're going into space. Václav Černý looked like it was offside to a lot of people in the stadium. The goal music didn't even get played, which was confusing. But that split the difference. And that's his 10th goal. I don't know what number of assists he's on. And while Černý, I think, still can have moments where he frustrates fans, I don't think you could say that he's not been an effective player so far, because if he continues on this form, then he won't be far off 20 goals, which for a Rangers winger is not something we've said.
When was the last time, off the top of my head, I can't think the last Rangers winger to get to produce that in terms of numbers. You mentioned didn't get anywhere near that, probably not his Rangers career. You mentioned frustration there. I think that frustration comes from because people know what he is capable of. So when he then doesn't produce or he doesn't hit those particular heights, people then are perhaps frustrated by him. But as has been the case on a number of occasions, he does come up with these big moments. He timed his run really well. pass from Danilo was timed well, because it did have not a hugely lengthy VAR check, but obviously goes to it. There was clearly some lines being drawn. Rangers end up on the right side of those lines this time, thankfully, and they get their goal. Apart from that, it felt like a good time to get it, as Dundee started that second half on the front foot for like 10 seconds or so, and then Rangers then break and get the goal at 1-0. You then back Rangers to go on and win the game. They should have scored more goals. When you don't, you then end up in that frantic last 10-15 minutes where it only takes a free kick or a throw in or something like that. They can weather that very mild storm, and they got through. Nobody can say that Rangers were not thoroughly deserved of the 3 points. They certainly deserved to go home with the win. It should have been more comfortable. And you look at those breakaways, flashbacks to Hampden last week and the one that Rangers. Those moments, they have to get better at them. You have teams in those positions, and you're 4 against 1 like it was last week, 4 against 2 as it was a couple of times this afternoon. They have to get better at finishing those moments off.
I still think they're too
surprised they're in those positions in the first place.
No, I don't think it's just a coincidence. I think Adam and I spoke about this in the tactics podcast earlier this week, where I think everything's linked, and the moment in Nice where it's a 3v1, it's not quite a 4v1, but similar. I just think that Rangers they've not got enough clarity in the final third in those moments. Now you could say is that down to the style? I don't know, because Clement speaks quite a lot about training and automated movements and kind of rehearsed patterns in the final third. Is that down to the fact that how often has that Rangers front four played together? You're still playing to a degree in that front four when Hadji's out wide. It's still an element of square pegs and round holes. So I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's still a pattern where Rangers as a team are still a bit erratic in the final third. As a team, they still shoot from poor distances. It's still become a little bit cross heavy, and it can be frantic. And that to me is how I saw a lot of the second half. Listen, they did create enough opportunities to probably win that game 3-0. I think the XG was around about 3. So presuming they finished on average, they should have had a couple more goals. But I still feel a little bit like watching them at Ibrox that they're too dependent on going direct, which then turns the ball over, which then makes the game go end to end. And it felt like, maybe I'm being overly harsh, and you can tell me if so. I'm sure the comments will. But it felt to me to a degree that Rangers still don't have that. If they don't get the second goal, they still aren't able to control games really with the ball. Fair?
I think that's fair. We'll let the comments decide if you've been overly harsh after a Rangers victory, but I think it's a fair assessment there. It wasn't perfect by any means. It's not as bad as it has been. We've seen some fairly low key and some of the low quality fixtures here over the season, unfortunately. The manager keeps speaking about Rangers getting better and progress. I don't think there's many signs of progress when you look at what has happened the last couple of weeks. Kelly, obviously, Spurs, a decent performance in the cup final last week. It didn't feel like this team taking another step on or kicking on again, but it didn't feel that bad that they were like reverting to type of, I say, some of the ones that we have seen here earlier on the season. So for me, it's very much a win and move on one without. I don't think you can go over the top on the praise. I don't think you can go over the top on the criticism of them. It ticked a box. It could and should have been better in terms of scoreline, but ultimately I don't think the manager will read. I don't think he'll read too much into it, because he also spoke about going into this period, a lot of fixtures, a lot of football to be played. It's just finding ways to get through them at present. Also before attention's turned back to the Old Firm game. Yeah,
and that was kind of what he said in the press conference, wasn't it? So obviously people can watch that. The regret is they weren't able to entertain the fans a little bit more, but certainly it was a comfortable win. I can't think of a save that Liam Kelly had to make, which is important to point out and does show that they were pretty dominant. Liam Kelly, who the press conference will be out tomorrow, and it's well worth the watch because he's waited a long time for that, hasn't he? He spoke to him in the summer out in Portugal, I think it was. Holland. Okay, been a long day. I said that with confidence as well, didn't I? Rangers pre-season training camp, and he came in to fulfil a specific role at the club this season where he knew there was a 99% chance. I mean, Jarrett Bolton's always going to be the number one. He had to leave for what Clement said was private reasons today, so obviously respect that privacy, but Clement said you don't need to worry about him. He's fine. Liam Kelly came in somewhat of the last minute, and he didn't really have to do much, but a nice moment for him and his family, because he's someone who came through the academy at Ibrox, went away and played his football elsewhere, and wanted to come back. And although he knew he might spend a lot of time on the bench, and this is someone who was obviously Motherwell's captain last season, wasn't he? And I think the season before that, that was a nice moment for him and his family today, wasn't it?
As you said there, it's a moment that he has waited, not just a couple of months for. He's waited best part of 14 years or so for, since he first came into it. Got close to the first team, didn't get that breakthrough. Yeah. Then, all credit to him, he made the decision. He knew that he had to go and play football somewhere else. Made the move. He's been down south, played a number of teams up here, really established himself as a good, solid Premiership goalkeeper. Got himself into the Scotland squad, but I think making that Rangers debut will be one of the highlights of his career. Yes, it's only 1-0 over Dundee at Ibrox, but I think he'll cherish that, and it'll take quite a lot. It'll mean quite a lot to him. As the manager outlined, obviously we expect Jack Butland to be back for the St Mirren game, which is good. But if you're going to put Liam Kelly into a game, with all respect to him, he's clearly not the goalkeeper that Jack Butland is, but he should be able to come into a game like this. If he can't play in a game like this, he's then not really equipped to be backup goalkeeper. No, he's not really able to fulfil that role. He is able to fulfil that role. You shouldn't really have any doubts about him coming into a game like this. I say he did everything, what little he had to do. He did it well. He'll be back on the bench come Boxing Day. But it's a nice moment for him, and it does show that if he is required in fixtures like this, I think the manager's obviously more than willing to put him in and give him that game time.
Who else stood out? I mean, Dujon Sterling played at centre half. Thought it was a couple of times on the ball where he maybe forced it a little bit, but you'd expect that him learning the role. And he actually had 2 or 3 moments where he covered. Robin Prop was on a yellow card, did a bad tackle for that yellow card. And there was a moment where Sterling had to cover a lot of ground, 84, 85 minutes, and a couple of moments like that in the first half too. I said on the show earlier with Derek a couple of days ago, I think it's a testament to how highly Sterling is probably rated, that he can just be, he doesn't know if he's coming on as a right winger or a centre half in the final. That's surely not an easy thing to do. He'll be required there until if and when Rangers are able to move in the January transfer window to try and address that lack of options that they have at centre half. Anyone else stand out? Any other performers? I guess Hamza Gaman had some good moments, still some moments where you see his game requires refining, but that was always going to be the case, isn't it? And even though today didn't have that end product, maybe Rangers' best attacking moment still came through a little bits of invention for him, because he was really unlucky to see a shot cleared off the line after a 1-2, I think, with Hadji maybe 20 minutes from the end of the game.
Jordan McGee just nips in and gets off the line. I thought it was that there was those moments from Magaman, not as influential overall as perhaps has been in other performances. Probably deserved the goal for that one. He should have scored the one. It's a good cross from Maskin, nice move down the right hand side from that distance. It has to be scoring rather than hitting the bar. But I think again he can be relatively satisfied with how his afternoon went. Standouts apart from that, I think we're somewhat short on that particular thing. Tierney got the man of the match at the stadium, and deservedly so. Apart from that, everyone very much 6, 7 out of 10 rather than 8, 9 out of 10. But I think Tierney deserved the man of the match. He had a couple of chances in the first half, and keeper made a save, came low across him. As we discussed earlier on, he did really well for the goal. And there's an interview with Tierney on the site over the next couple of days, going through everything he's experienced in his first couple of months at Ibrox, how he's going to handle that festive period. And I think overall, you look at his influence, and he's been a really good bit of business for Rangers. He's delivered in big moments, delivered in European games, got the only goal today. So for me, he's the kind of man of the match and the standout showing. But not an afternoon where there's that many of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll leave it there. We're going to be live on Monday morning, I think, Tuesday as well, ahead of Christmas. There's no game before that, as the Rangers, though, do get the win that they wanted heading into the 25th of December. We'll be away at St Mirren, away at Motherwell. Loads more covers to come for you over the festive period. But until then, we'll speak to you on Monday. Thank you for joining us, and bye for now.